Hey, Prodigal Teens, Pastor Chris here, coming to you with another quarantine devotional for our Holy Week read-through of Jesus' life. Today is Thursday, which is also known by the larger church as Maudry Thursday. It's also the day that we read the Passover meal and Jesus' Last Supper. So this little devotional is going to be pretty familiar to you guys, I think. I'm reading on Luke 22, starting in verse 14. So if you've got a Bible, grab it, and let's just jump into this passage. Here we go. When the hour came, Jesus and his apostles reclined at the table, and he said to them, I have eagerly desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. For I tell you, I will not eat it again until it finds fulfillment in the kingdom of God. After taking the cup, he gave thanks and said, Take this, divide it among you, for I tell you, I will not drink again of the fruit of the vine until the kingdom of God comes. And he took bread, gave thanks, and broke it, and gave it to them, saying, This is my body, given for you. Do this in remembrance of me. In the same way, after supper, he took the cup, saying, This cup is of the new covenant in my blood, which is poured out for you. But the hand of him who is going to betray me is with mine at the table. The Son of Man will go as it has been decreed, but woe to the man who betrays him. They began to question among themselves which of them might be who would do this. A dispute rose among them as to which of them was considered to be the greatest. And Jesus said to them, The kings of the Gentiles lord it over them, and those who exercise authority over them call themselves benefactors. But you are not to be like that. Instead, the greatest among you should be like the youngest, and the one who rules like the one who serves. For who is greater, the one who is at the table or the one who serves? Is it not the one who is at the table? But I am among you as one who serves. You are those who have stood by me in my trials, and I confer on you a kingdom, just as my Father conferred one on me, so that you may eat and drink at my table in my kingdom, and sit on thrones judging the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay, we're going to stop right there. So, a couple of things. Remember, this is Jesus' last meal with them, and I want to point out, and this always strikes me whenever I read this passage, because it's so important, I think, and we overlook it so often. Here, right in verse 15, I have it underlined right here. You can see, and it said to them, I have eagerly desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffered. I have eagerly desired. Jesus was excited to eat this meal with his disciples. He wasn't avoiding it or trying to get out of it, but he was excited to go to this meal because he really loved his disciples. In John, during this part of the passage, it says that Jesus loved those who are in the world, and he loved them until the end, right? He does this because he loves his disciples, and he loves us so much that he's excited even to be in a place with them that is going to be dangerous here in a little bit for them. And then he says right afterwards, I will not eat it again until it finds fulfillment in the kingdom of God. There's a lot of debate about what that means. And he says it again, too. He says right after that, for I tell you, I won't drink of the fruit of the vine until the kingdom of God comes. So instead of answering what I think the answer is to this, I want to ask you, what do you think Jesus means by he won't eat it again until the fulfillment of the kingdom of God? What do you think Jesus is getting at with his disciples? I'm sure they were confused or unsure themselves even what he said. But let's keep going. So he takes the bread, he gives thanks, and then he says, do this in remembrance of me, right? And we do this quite often in church. We call this communion whenever we gather together to break bread and to drink grape juice in our case, but, wine if you're hardcore about it. And this is a really important part of the church. We call it a sacrament because it's important. Because Jesus says, do this whenever you can in remembrance of me, right? And so when we take communion, we're not just eating and drinking together, but we're actually participating in the kingdom with Jesus at the same time and doing something that he told us to do here. So this is really an important passage. And then he takes the cup and he drinks it and he says, my blood is this, which is poured out for you. And then he says, but the hand of the one who is going to betray me is with mine at the table. Now, we as the reader know that this is talking about Judas. Remember, yesterday we talked about Judas's betrayal, him going and getting 30 silver coins for betraying Jesus from the Pharisees, and because he was angry, because he was upset, right? But the disciples, they don't know yet in the text who is going to be the one who betrays him. And so look at the conversation that breaks out with them. Right after he says that, they began to question among themselves which of them it might be who would do this, okay? So that's important. They start having a conversation about who's going to be the one to betray Jesus. But then right after that, in the next verse, it also says a dispute also arose among them as to which one was considered to be the greatest. So not only are they arguing about which loser it's going to be that betrays Jesus, but they're also arguing about, well, it can't be me because I'm the best follower of Jesus there is, right? It can't be me because I am the greatest disciple of Jesus and you are inferior, so obviously it must be you. And Jesus' rebuke to his friends is this, that the kings of the Gentiles lord it over them, that they're kings, that those who exercise authority, they call themselves benefactors. But he said, but you are not like that. Instead, the greatest among you should be like the youngest, and the one who rules like the one who serves. All right? Jesus is actively calling his disciples to be the losers, that almost in a way saying it's better to be this one who's going to betray me than it is to be the one who gets to sit at my right hand, right? Jesus says, who's better, the one who rules over a kingdom or the one who sits at the table, or the one who serves at the table? And obviously, the worldly answer to that is the one who rules over the kingdom, right? But Jesus says, but I'm not one here as one who rules over the kingdom. I'm here as one who serves among you. And so you should be like this as well. He finishes this passage by telling his disciples that he's giving them a kingdom, just like God has given him the right to the kingdom. And the way to access this kingdom is to make yourself the least of these. So on this Maudry Thursday, as we know the death of Jesus is coming, as we know the suffering and pain that it's going to be, I hope you take some comfort in the fact that Jesus desires to eat this boring, lame Passover meal with his disciples, and that even in our boring, routine, quarantined lives, he desires to be among us when it's not flashy, when it's not excellent, and when it's not amazing. Leave your comments down below about what you think Jesus means when he says, for I tell you I will not eat it again until it finds fulfillment in the kingdom of God. I'm so happy to be doing this with you guys. I look forward to seeing your faces soon as we get out of quarantine, and we'll see you guys tomorrow with another devotional.